What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Move Groove Grow podcast. This is where I just share updates and behind the scenes stuff that's happening with my companies. Anyways, going right into it. This week I got a couple of meetings with some prospect clients. One of them is the security company that I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. Things are just busy, and we're meeting this Thursday and see what we're gonna do. Another one is an entertainment company located nearby my side of town. I'm also going to be meeting with someone about the potential nonprofit status of Temper Tantrum. That's something that I've honestly been hemming and hawing about like the past year, debating whether or not to do it or whether or not just to do it to get a fiscal sponsor. Because a lot of the stuff has been with the help of like crowdfunding, but majority of it has been self-funded. So I want to see what we can do, if it qualifies, what the restrictions may be. I think that's the main thing that I'm worried about. I've already talked to a handful of people who run their own nonprofit dance companies, but the thing is, I don't know, there's just this thought that there's just a fear of feeling restricted if we go that route in terms of things I can do in terms of operating the company. Okay, so last week, because I've been sharing with you guys that I've been doing a lot of sprints lately, and I think it's just been really producing results in terms of getting shit done and just really moving one or two steps forward rather than an inch forward in all directions. So last week I worked on Ask Vision Paradox, which is Vision Paradox, my social media company's YouTube channel, and also the podcast. The challenge with that is that a lot of it was recorded in 2023, so it's just really making sure that information is relevant and not dated. The result, though, after just working on it for just pure focus on it for a straight week, was a lot of great content that we're going to be sharing on all the platforms, channel and the podcast. We have scheduled content all the way through October. I also experimented with a different type of podcast, which is an AI generated podcast. So what I did was I got one of the transcripts from our micro content, not even from the main podcast, from our micro content, had AI create a script out of that. Then we went into 11 labs to create an episode out of it. And because the information was essentially the same thing, just rehashed, and honestly a lot more organized. So I'm experimenting on that on the Ask VP podcast, because I just feel like a lot of the stuff we teach has to just be reminded, and sometimes people receive it differently if it's told in different ways. I'm of the belief that humans need to be reminded than they need to be taught. So I just feel like it's just a little bit of an experiment. If you guys want to check that out, head on over to the Spotify Ask Vision Paradox or Ask VP podcast. It's only going to be for audio, because I don't know how I feel about using AI video just yet, because a lot of it still looks uncanny valley and a little wonky for some things. And I'm not about to try to look for a whole bunch of B-roll just for this little bit of an experiment. So this week, in terms of sprints, the main focus I'm going to be working on this week is primarily podcasts. I've recorded a lot of podcasts throughout the years, and notice I said years because that's how much stuff is backlogged. And Temper Tantrum just did a podcast session 2 weeks ago. A lot of it is kind of like a mix of trending stuff to more evergreen Q&A type of content, and so I want to try to get through that, and some of the podcasts that I've backlogged for several years, simply because of time. But I know some of them are also personal podcasts, like interviewing my grandma before she passed, interviewing my dad before his heart condition worsened, interviewing my mom. So there's a whole bunch of things that those are more personal podcasts that I want to get to. It's also going to be interesting seeing where it is to where I was as a person compared to today. Also, just thanks to the improvement of technology, aka AI, there were some podcasts that I thought I had to scrap, simply because the mic ran out of battery and there was no indicator that it was dead. So I not so much ran out of battery, but it was just the sound quality was just complete garbage. When I do a lot of these podcasts, it's kind of a one-man army. I overlook some things. Thankfully now that there's a team helping out with that. So that's like the main thing. I don't expect to get through all of it. I'm definitely going to be using some AI help this week. because I think the main challenge that I'm going to be dealing with that is like prioritizing which ones that will help people. I'm the way I'm looking at it right now is prioritizing the most recent stuff, then the most valuable stuff, and or the one that's been backlogged the longest. So it all comes down to like how helpful is this conversation to the people watching it. Why should people care? But yeah, I'm excited I'm just excited to be able to just focus in on a lot of those things because again, it's backlogged. All right, so on to Temper Tantrum news. This past weekend was one of our dancer's birthdays, Spillers. So what we did with him is battle for 27 rounds because he turned 27. For those of you guys who are not familiar with hip hop culture or dance culture or b-boy culture, one of the ways that birthdays are usually celebrated is through battles or dance contests, or dance-offs is what some people call them, but we call them battles. So whatever age they are, they have to battle for that many rounds. So in this case, he had to battle for 27 rounds. I think the challenge for him on that was surviving those 27 rounds because in terms of battling, if you've never battled, it's essentially like high intensity interval training. You are going intense for like 30-40 seconds, taking a short break to give your opponent their turn, and then you go back in. And then imagine doing that 27 times. Also, this past weekend, we had a great recording session for our Patreon and YouTube. So we recorded reactions to Street Man Fighter and a lot of smaller stuff for our YouTube. Going into Street Man Fighter, this was probably the most heated we've ever been in regards to reactions. For 2 episodes, we strongly disagreed with the judges. It was to the point that we had to pause in the middle of filming, and we've never done that, to just rant about how bad the calls were. Because again, for 2 episodes, we disagreed with the judges, whether in terms of the battle rounds, the choreographers, the challenges. It was something else.
What? All right, that's it. Episode 4. We're done. We're done. There's nothing. There's nothing else to watch.
I hate it. What are they looking for?
Thank you. Look. Disbelief. Absolute disbelief. Why are we watching this? Why did you have me on for this episode?
So if you guys like Street Man Fighter or Street Woman Fighter, and if you guys want to check that out when it's released, it is going to be exclusively on the Patreon. We can't release documentary or full reality TV style reality TV reactions because of copyright reasons. So which is why it's a Patreon exclusive. In terms of the smaller reactions, shouts out to everyone who's been supporting all the reactions. Even more so if you guys have been supporting the non-reaction content, whether it's the podcasts or the dance videos, because the main reason we have this channel is so we can share dance videos with you guys. And the main reason we're doing reactions is because as a company, I think we all have some level of experience when it comes to dance, and I just like the whole dance education aspect of what makes these dances really, really fun to watch. So even though you guys are watching a dance reaction video, to us we're doing dance education. There were a little bit of challenges though when it came to filming the reactions. First off, it was a new location. We usually film it at Noelle's place, but she was out of town and she's also going to be moving. So Chrissy and her husband Ryan, both members of her Temper Tantrum, opened their home for us to do the reactions, which was perfect because the space they had was a lot of fun. It felt a little homier rather than just sitting in front of in a conference room. And it's also we also had an opportunity to have other people who've never done reactions. So Ryan's never done it, Kat's never done it, and Spillers has never done it. And those are people who I'm assuming that you guys don't know, but those are just members of the dance company. And then we also had 2 additional guests because it was also Spiller's birthday. So this is the most people we've ever had doing these reactions. So I'm excited for it, for you guys to check it out. Moving forward, I'm probably going to keep it to like 5 to 6 people because it got really cramped on that couch. And also one of the other things I'm currently concerned about right now is since the spacing is a little different, because we finally got a flow of how to set up the microphones in the conference room at Noelle's place. Now it's a completely different space and it's around a couch and there's more people and like different distances. So I'm a little concerned in terms of how the audio quality is going to be, whether it peaks too much or some people are too low because they're leaning back in the couch and chilling. So, but overall the result was great. We managed to film a good, a couple episodes of Street Man Fighter and some reaction YouTube content. And one of the main reasons we chunk these things in terms of filming is like we batch film everything is because the last thing I want to do is ask the team to film this once a week or every other week because we have lives, we're adults, and there's other things we want to do aside from just doing temper tantrum related activities. So it just makes sense to work smarter by batch filming everything and then spacing it out. So in terms of the dance end, the main project that we are working on right now is a routine called Love in Motion, which is a number we performed for our show Universal Rhythm. We have about a month until we do filming. So we finished a good chunk of the Love in Motion routine this past weekend. I think one of the challenges this past weekend was one of the choreographers was sick. So we had to delay on working the pieces. But nonetheless, we made it work. We managed to finish one of the closing numbers of that piece, and the blocking, test shots, everything, what we needed, because this particular number was delayed for months. We touch it for a little bit, work on it, and then get close to finishing. But because of project scope and shifts in schedule, we weren't able to do it. It's August 26th right now. My ideal situation is that we would have everything done by July, but based off the result of on one of our film shoots, the morale of the team and all of that, it just made more sense to slow it down. And by slowing it down, made everything easier. It goes back to one of the lessons I shared in one of the previous podcasts, which is make haste slowly. You'll make progress faster if you take your time, and that's what we've been doing. And honestly, yeah, the rehearsals have been like it's been flowing. It's been fluid. It almost feels easy. And again, I shared this last week in last week's podcast too. It's like I'm waiting for the shoe to drop. I'm like, but even then, we like one of the choreographers couldn't show up because they were sick. We managed to make it work. Things got done anyways. So yeah. Okay. So lesson of the week is have the hard conversations. Avoiding stirring the pot just makes things worse, because what you permit, you support. So if there's someone who it has been toxic in your organization, your dance company, your group of friends, or even in your relationship, if you don't speak up, that means you support it and that you allow it. I mean, it's valid that you're scared, that you don't want to stir the pot, that you don't want to ruffle any feathers, but uncommunicated expectations only builds resentment. The reason that one is really coming up is because I have to make some calls to some people on my dance company Temper Tantrum about their status as members, and part of me is anticipating just the awkward conversations of it. I don't like getting on the phones for these types of conversations, but it has to be done. Yeah, so that's the lesson of the week. Have the hard conversations with whoever you need to have them. If it gets heated, obviously step away. The worst thing you can do is try to have a very heavy conversation with high emotions. Step away, cool off, have a clear head, and then come back at it. Something to also keep in mind is that you don't have control on how the person is going to respond. Hopefully they have the emotional intelligence and maturity to hear you out and have some empathy about where you're coming from, because you have zero control in how a person responds when you are being honest with them. The only thing you have control over is yourself, and the best thing for yourself is to be open and honest and to have that conversation. That's it. Have a great week, or depending on when you're watching this, hope you're having a great day or evening, wherever the heck you guys are.